I don't think it's just a horror film. It's a horror comedy. And I think that is what really sets The Blackening apart, because I think it takes what people love about horror and what you love about comedy and use it in such a complimentary way that it says, it feels like a new genre that's not one of either, but like the baby of both. And then I think from the point of view that it's in and really speaking on like blackness, I think that so much horror for blackness lives in trauma. And I feel like a lot of comedy is the subversion of that trauma. So being able to put them both and show the horror through a comedic lens, I think really speaks to the Black experience. Hopefully they take away that it was a good, entertaining, funny movie. They take away a bunch of laughs. I want them to see that the way in which these characters present themselves, that blackness is not a monolith. I think that was the biggest thing of being like, oh, these characters, they love each other, they're friends, and that their survival comes from their existence and how that kind of feeds into like what existing as a Black person feels like. And I hope that is what the biggest takeaway is like, oh, this is very funny, also poignant.
Yeah, that's nice.
So first of all, Tracy, I think, is such a great writer and mentor. She really helped me figure out just the business. As I said, she was just like, hey, you want to make a movie? And I was like, I have skill and talent. How does this work? And so she was there to really guide me through like this process. And I like love her so much for that. And then Tim Story is legit the most collaborative director I've ever worked with. And having this be my first movie, I understand that like there are things that I don't know, but he trusted me in a way that I didn't expect, which he was like, you've proven yourself based off what you've written. I trust you. And to have Tim Story give me that kind of energy, I am still like blown away by it. I love him so much. He's so nice. Because of the sketch, like the idea that like my improv group did that, and I was like, oh, it sucks, like they can't be in the movie. So I like initially was like kind of sad, and then truly I mean this very seriously, I am obsessed with every one of them. It is so strange how the chemistry is so solid, and we talk about it often and be like, we're always just like waiting for the shoe to fall, because we're like, this is lightning in a bottle. Like, how are we all vibing so hard? And I love them so much. And I think they really, because I had my friends from the sketch in mind, seeing them take these roles and create something new really allowed me to free myself from like any confines or anything that any preconceived notions of what it could be. It allowed us to just kind of create it together. And I think that has made the best chemistry, because we're like, we're in this together, we're figuring it out, yay. We love each other. Nice. Dewayne represents basically me, because I am Dewayne, but I think like he's a writer who is struggling because the systems that he are a part of are basically telling him that who he is and what he knows isn't good enough. And I think that as like a Black gay man existing in this country, I think a lot of my life have been navigating systems and being like, okay, this is not necessarily made for me. How do I thrive in this setting? And using that line of being like, oh, Black people don't like horror. Like, I've had people generalize things to me about Blackness who are not Black. And I'm just like, how do we exist in this world where there are such large generalizations about a certain group of people? And I think that's the whole movie, is breaking those down, of showing you so many different facets and sides of Blackness that it's proving you cannot make this one thing, because it's not, and it never has been. And if you think that way, you're wrong. Yeah, I think so much of horror lives on like human experience. And because a lot of horror has been predominantly white, I think something that I really wanted to tap into was the natural ability of Black people and their survival instincts, and how that would play differently in a horror movie. Because if you led a life where you have always had to fight, where you have always had to survive, being put in a horror setting would be different. Because you're like, I'm not making that dumb choice, because that's stupid. Why would I go into that dark ass basement? I don't want to. So having these people kind of face the reality of horror movies in like a very real way is what I think is so funny. Like, this movie is for the people that watch horror movies to be like, don't do that. And we're the people doing it in the movie, being like, don't do that. I'm not doing that. Like, and I think that is so much of like the soul of this movie, is being able to speak for the people who watch horror movies and don't see themselves in those horror movies, or don't see themselves in the actions of horror movies, because so much of it is like a formula. I'd be like, oh, you have to be a little dumb in horror movies or you'll survive. And leaning into that, I'd be like, no, all these people are just like smart. Like, sure, like there are stakes, and like these stakes are very real, but like what experiences that they have had in their lives, those can help. And kind of connecting those, I think, is what makes the movie like super fun, and I'm obsessed with that aspect of it. Yeah, I love the word petty. I like the idea of being petty. I think there's so much comedy in that, because you're actively knowing, like, I am doing this purposefully to have a reaction. And I think my character so lives in that spot. And I think something that I live very truthful by is like not denying reality. And Dewayne's pettiness comes from like, there has been experiences that we've all lived. Namdi has cheated on Lisa multiple times, and we just go and forget, like we gonna act like it didn't happen. And so being able to live in that truth, but showing that like he is emotionally hurt, like that petty is just truth with like negative feelings on it. And I think that plays, and then once those feelings are like dealt with, you just have that truth, which is like, oh no, we do have to deal with like the relationship dynamic between Lisa and Namdi, and we do. But I think like that journey of going from like petty to just like truthful is the emotional journey of letting go some of that negativity about the truth, and then just getting to a place where transparency, and they have a solid relationship again.